Captain Aaron Voss had never intended to become a bargaining chip in an interstellar war. Yet here he stood, in the crystalline throne room of the Zalthine Empire, surrounded by guards whose plasma rifles hummed with barely restrained violence. The Empress herself sat before him, her iridescent scales catching the light of 3 suns filtering through the vaulted ceiling. "You saved my daughter," Empress Kalyra said, her voice carrying the weight of 1,000 conquered worlds. "Why?" Aaron met her golden eyes without flinching. 3 days ago, the question would have been simple. 3 days ago, he'd been leading a reconnaissance mission through the Broken Reach, that debris-choked border between human and Zalthine space where both sides pretended treaties still mattered. They'd found the escape pod embedded in an asteroid, its distress beacon screaming in frequencies that hurt human ears. Standard protocol: ignore it, report the location, move on. The war had taught humanity that mercy was a luxury they couldn't afford. Not against the Zalthine who'd glassed 7 colony worlds without warning. But Aaron had heard something else in that signal. Desperation, terror, the universal language of a child in danger. He'd gone in alone, leaving his squad in the ship. What he found wasn't a soldier or a spy, but a young Zalthine girl, barely adolescent by their standards, trapped in a pod rapidly losing life support. Her scales were pale, almost translucent, a sign of noble birth, he'd later learn. She'd looked at him with those same golden eyes, and he'd seen past the enemy propaganda, past the species barrier, to simple fear. "Because she was dying," Aaron said simply, "and I could stop it." The throne room fell silent. Kalyra's courtiers shifted uncomfortably, their scaled crests flaring in what Aaron had learned to recognize as confusion. The concept seemed alien to them, that a human, one of the Death Worlders as they called his kind, would save a Zalthine life. "Impossible," one of the advisors hissed. "Humans are predators. They know only violence." Aaron couldn't help the bitter smile. "We know violence very well," he admitted. "Your empire made sure of that when you destroyed Nueva Terra. But we also know something you seem to have forgotten. Compassion isn't weakness." Kalyra raised a clawed hand, silencing her court. She rose from her throne, and Aaron was struck again by her presence. She was tall even for a Zalthine, her scales a deep sapphire that spoke of age and power. She descended the steps slowly, deliberately, until she stood before him. "My daughter tells me you shielded her with your own body when debris struck your ship during the rescue," she said quietly. "You bled for her, human blood so red and strange upon her scales. She was terrified of you at first. We teach our young that humans are monsters, yet you sang to her in your language something about stars and homes far away until my fleet arrived." Aaron remembered. The girl, Lissa, he'd learned her name, had been crying, her fear of him warring with her need for comfort. So he'd sung the only lullaby he knew, the one his mother had sung to him on Earth a lifetime ago. "Twinkle, twinkle, little star." Ridiculous, perhaps, but it had worked. "I have ruled this empire for 40 cycles, Kalyra continued, circling him slowly. "I have conquered 17 species. I have made decisions that haunt me in the darkness between stars. But I have never encountered something quite like you, Captain Voss." She stopped in front of him again. "By our laws, you have saved the heir to the throne. By our customs, this creates a debt that cannot be repaid with mere wealth or freedom. You could demand almost anything. Territory, ships, even an end to hostilities in certain sectors." Aaron's heart raced. An end to the war, even in part, would save millions of lives. But something in Kalyra's tone warned him this wasn't a simple negotiation. "However," the Empress continued, "you have also created a problem. My daughter speaks of you incessantly. She asks questions about humans, about their capacity for kindness, about why we fight you. She has made me question things I thought were absolute truths." Kalyra's eyes flashed with something dangerous and indefinable. "You have disrupted the natural order, Captain. In doing so, you have become interesting." "Interesting," Aaron echoed cautiously. "The Zalthine mate for life," Kalyra said, and the throne room erupted in shocked hisses and chittering. "When we find someone who embodies the qualities we most value, we claim them. Strength, intelligence, the courage to stand against impossible odds, the wisdom to show mercy when vengeance would be easier." She leaned closer. "Tell me, Captain Voss, do you know what you've done? You've shown me that humanity possesses something my empire has lost in its conquest, a soul that chooses compassion even when bathed in blood." Aaron's mind reeled. Your Majesty, I'm honored, but I am not asking, Captain. Her voice carried absolute authority now. I am proclaiming. Before this court, before the three sons, I declare you mine, my consort, my equal, and through you a bridge between our species. You can't be serious, Aaron breathed. I am an empress, Kalira replied with the hint of a smile. I am always serious. She turned to her court. Let it be known across all Zalthine space. The human who saved Princess Lisa is now under Imperial protection. Any who harm him answer to me personally. She looked back at Aaron, and he saw something in her eyes he never expected. Respect, certainly, but also genuine curiosity. Perhaps even the beginning of affection. You showed my daughter that monsters can choose to be heroes, Kalira said softly. Now you will show me how a Deathworlder loves. And perhaps, Captain Voss, together we will teach our peoples that the greatest strength lies not in conquest, but in choosing who we protect. As the court dissolved into chaos around them, Aaron realized his war had ended, but an entirely different battle had just begun.